I understood a part of it at the time. I understood the betrayal of it. I understood
Yeah.
I understood certain things. And as I've gotten older, and I have a pretty good relationship with Brett, so I've gotten to understand a lot of. I wouldn't say I understand everything because I don't, but
What's up, Bengal fans? It's your host, Joey Karni. I want to thank you for clicking on this video. It was an amazing experience, and I can't wait for you to see the full interview. Now, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below your favorite part at the end of the video. Now, enjoy the show.
Let's go, let's go! Ladies and gentlemen, with me today is a former tag team champion. He's a member of the Hart Dynasty, current WWE producer, better known as Tyson Kidd. Ladies and gentlemen, TJ Wilson. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Hey, man, I'm doing very well. How you doing?
Good, man. Good, man. I appreciate you taking the time, especially with everything that's going on right now and it being the holiday season, finding some time to come on a podcast. So I appreciate you doing that.
Oh, it's all good, man. Thank you for having me.
I like to start off my interviews really asking about how life has changed with COVID. I know it's affected everybody in a different way, and I know it's really hit hard, I guess, but still going on and still progressing. How has it affected your daily life?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been lucky enough in that I've been able to work throughout the whole process. You know, the last, I guess, 10 months, however long it's been. Definitely a lot of changes. I don't go to the airport. I haven't been in an airport in a long time, which is very abnormal in my world. I ended up having to, which I'm fine with. It's been a great investment, but I ended up having to build or get a home gym set up in my garage when the gyms all closed down. So like I said, I drive to and from work, and I'm home every night, so I can't complain. As bad as it's been, as different and weird as it's been for everybody, I can't complain because it hasn't. I've been able to keep going on and keep doing my thing, and obviously with adjustments. And I know that I'm very lucky and fortunate for that. So I try not to rub it in too much, but that for me it hasn't been awful.
Got it. And I know you said that you kind of get to drive to work now. How's that changed since before, running live shows every day of the week, and now, just being a short drive away from where they're filming now? How has that changed, especially you and Natty's schedule? How is that really?
Oh man, it's complete 180, very different. I experienced this kind of with my neck injury where everything kind of came to a sudden halt. But in terms of everybody across the board, not just in our company, but everybody, but my peers, it's definitely different when you go from, for the talent, when you go from wrestling 3 or 4 times a week, maybe even 4 or 5, depending on the week. And, even these European tours where we do like 12 or 13 days in a row.
Yeah.
We haven't had those with no one has. So it's a big change. I see both sides of the coin in terms of, I see a lot of people a lot of the talent, and a lot of everybody that's, we're a little bit more refreshed. We're not so worn out and, just going from town to town to town to town to town.
Yeah.
So there's that, but maybe some people, maybe it's also the trade-off is a little bit of maybe there's some sharpness in the ring that's missing from time to time that would maybe be there when we had our live events multiple times a week. So it's just a giant contrast between the schedule in February and the schedule right now.
Of course. And I guess the real question here is how has it changed for the cats? Because I know you guys are very into cats, and now they're with you almost every day now.
It changed a lot for them. They get to sleep with me every night now. So they're not sure who they have to talk to, but they really like this schedule. Works very well for them.
Awesome. Now, it's no secret that in April, WWE had some furloughs, actually a big list of furloughs. And I did talk to some talent that was on the negative side of that, but I haven't had anybody that was on the positive, I guess, side of that. And I kind of wanted to ask you, what was it like going through that whole situation? Did you think that you'd be on that list? Like, what were the thoughts when you first heard about everything going on?
No, yeah, that was terrible. That sucked. That was definitely a huge loss. Yeah, I woke up that morning and I watched the video, and then there was a group text of producers that had been furloughed, and then they were all like message. I mean, it was a group text of all the producers, but
yeah,
the ones that have been furloughed, I think were contacted a little bit beforehand. So then once the video aired, then they were kind of talking in there, and most have been brought back, I believe, in some way or another. But yeah, in terms of the producers that were furloughed, as for the talent and everybody else behind the scenes, I mean, there's just a horrible. I mean, I guess it just was a horrible day. It sucked to keep. Now that I'm a producer, I get like the emails on like when a talent's been let go.
Yeah.
And just see that list, like just see my emails, just like another email. And I understand, that's how it is on that side of things. But it just it was just a bad day. Just to see. I knew that it would be temporary. Like I know, like I'm very good friends with like Brian Myers and Matt Cardona, and I know both guys are going to do really well and land on their feet and be no problem.
Of course.
But selfishly now I don't see them as often. Like I was seeing them every week, and now I don't. And so selfishly, it definitely bothered me a lot. But I knew at the same time, these guys, this sucks in this moment, but I knew these guys are going to be totally fine, and they are, and they have been great. It just was a bad day, man. It was a really bad day, I think, for everyone. I think even on all sides, even the people that like you said, kind of the positive side of those furloughs and releases, still was a bad day for us too.
Yeah, I remember as a fan watching, seeing the first statement come out, and then they just kept coming, and it was just eyes glued to the phone or the computer waiting to see what happens next. And it was something I think that go down in like history for at least WWE, where it was like one of those really dark days. I don't know. It was definitely a different vibe.
Absolutely.
About all that. But I do kind of want to elaborate on your current role. You're a WWE producer, and I know I'm interested in it, and I know a lot of other people are too. What exactly does that entail? What's the process behind producing for WWE?
So I go to a production meeting earlier in the day on a TV day, and sometimes it's sometimes we give a lot of back and forth ideas, and sometimes just depending on what it may be, that sometimes you just kind of get little, not so much your orders, but you kind of get your details of what you're doing on the show that day in terms of what match or matches I have to kind of get assembled, and then from there I go work with talent, and we try to do the best match we can in the certain parameters, whether that be time constraints or just kind of maybe what we have available on the show, and then we, like I said, then we kind of create the match, and that part's the fun part for me when I get out of the production meeting, and I get to get with the talent, kind of collaborate and create with whether it be with two people or 6 or 12. It's a cool process in terms of laying it all out and kind of putting things together and being creative.
Yeah. And you had a different transition to that role opposed to it not being your choice. You kind of were just due to injury, you had no choice really. What was that transition like? Them coming to you with the idea of being a producer and kind of just weighing the different options that you had there?
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously I knew I couldn't wrestle anymore. And I just, it took a while for me to heal, not just physically, but mentally as well for a while. And I honestly didn't, I remember like Johnny Laurinaitis has talked to me about being a producer back when I was a talent, and I really didn't like the idea at all. I just really disliked it. There's a lot of cool aspects to it, but there's just some stuff is just sometimes, I don't know, I just didn't think I would like it overall. And then when I was approached with the idea, after my injury and after I'd had some time to heal and figure things out, I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot, and I will give it the best I got. But like, this may not be a good fit. And I don't know, man. It's crazy. There are a lot of times that I almost have a lot more fun, and it's almost can be a lot more fulfilling than even my own in-ring career. Some ways, in some ways, I definitely miss being in there myself. But then, like, if I'm sitting with six of the girls and we put together a match and they go out there and then they nail it, they kill it. Then like I get to see six really happy faces rather than if I just wrestle somebody and we have a good match. It's I'm happy, the other guy might be happy. It's two of us. I don't know. It's a different fulfillment. And the best part is that I really didn't think I would like it at first, but I turned out I was right. I don't like it, but I really do love it. I really do. So it's turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
That's awesome. And it's almost like your fantasy booking, almost like things that you would want to do, and you kind of get to teach that to others and see it, play out in real life. I can only imagine how fulfilling that actually is to see that really, and it work, for it to
exactly, and then maybe having your own philosophies, and then maybe trying to apply it to a different match, and then exactly to your point, seeing it work, or seeing it maybe work, but maybe not as well as I thought, and then like almost in my mind going back to the drawing board and wondering, okay, what could I have switched in that match? What could we have switched as a group to make it all work even better? And then that's the process that's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. And with all the work that you are doing there, what's probably the most recent work that you can say that you had your hands on, just for everybody watching to kind of see your
most of the women's matches currently on the main roster.
Got it.
Sasha and Carmella. Sasha and Bailey. A lot, Natty and Bailey, Natty and Bianca. Just like all these matches.
So basically, some of the best points of the shows, you're saying.
I'm very biased, but I think so.
The women have been putting on some banger matches, and
I'm so proud of them. It's so fun for me to be a part of that.
The overall package that they're presenting, man, is something, I don't know. It's on a different level. So to know that you're kind of a part of that's a really cool aspect.
A lot of Nia and Lana stuff, which I've been very proud of. I think Lana's surprised a lot of people, which is very cool. I think Lana's proven a lot of people that she's right all along, maybe.
Exactly, because you've seen her character almost play out everywhere. We've seen it in WWE, in NXT, in WWE, and even on Total Divas.
Yeah,
all play out and kind of tie itself together. So that is really cool to see. But I do have a question, and it regards. I love asking origin stories. How did you? Well, we know how you kind of broke into the business, but where did it stem from, that love for pro wrestling? How did that all play out?
So funny. So I remember my cousin showed me wrestling when I was a kid, and I lived at home with my mom and my two sisters, and so two younger sisters. So I come home, and then I try some of the wrestling moves on my sisters, and wrestling quickly gets banned in my house. I'm not allowed to watch it. So I didn't like grow up at that point. I'm like 8 or 9, and I watched a little bit of wrestling, not a lot, and I couldn't name really too many people. And then I was banned very quickly in my house. And then it took going to school with Teddy Hart. I went to school with Teddy Hart. We were in the same class, and he kept inviting me to his house. And then I went to his house, which his parents owned a gym. So he lived in a gym, and they lived in like a quarters upstairs, a living quarters. And then I got invited to his grandparents' house, and then the Hart house where the dungeon is. And then, the next thing I know, I'm snowballed in, and we watch wrestling like every waking second. And I always go back to SummerSlam 92. Bret versus Davey is literally like the moment where I knew that I wanted to be a wrestler. But prior to that, being around like the Hart family, just what they would do. We would just watch wrestling like all the time. Like if it wasn't, Saturday Morning Superstars or whatever, then we were watching like VHS tapes. And so it was either like, okay, either I don't hang out with these people or I accept wrestling, either one or the other, because it can't be both. And man, and I just remember like then kind of like taking an interest in it and really enjoying it. And like I said, that SummerSlam 92, I remember I like fell in love. And I remember having like an old like King of the Ring 94 tape, and I just would watch it like all the time. I could do like, I knew all the commentary. Oh my God, I watched that tape way too many times, man. But definitely like I got snowballed in.
Yeah, and what you're describing, I think, is really every wrestling fan's dream. I mean, falling in love with pro wrestling, being invited to the dungeon, and just having everything you just described, I think is a very big dream that a lot of people have.
It's funny, when I got to Deep South and I first became friends with like Myers and Cardona and those guys, I remember we're sitting around kind of talking about how like everybody got started in wrestling and like who trained them and stuff. And then not that I didn't know beforehand, but I remember like kind of that being like an eye-opening moment, like, oh man, I don't know why I've been so naive to this, but like, this isn't the way everyone comes up in wrestling. Not everyone is as fortunate to come up the way I came up and to be around people I got to be around at a very young age. So I was always, to me, I feel like I was always guided the right way. I was never, misguided and had to find my way back. I had like the best people to help me. Yeah. And not everyone has that. And you almost take it for granted when you're a kid and you get a little bit older and you go, oh, wow. Like how did that all happen? The stars must have aligned, because it doesn't make sense if I sit and think about it now.
And that kind of trend like goes into my next question is when you're that young, you don't necessarily realize what you have in front of you. Now being so much longer through your career, like how does the appreciation change? Like what's that appreciation to you for that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a deep appreciation for I would say probably every aspect of my career. So definitely, especially, and I say this a lot to talent when we get to talking, like eventually every person on the roster, their contracts, not their contract, I'm sorry, their career is going to end at some point. Hopefully not for a very long time, but eventually everybody that's wrestling today will not be wrestling at some point. I don't know when that is. We all have a different date. For me, when I look back at my career, it's all reflective, because I don't wrestle in the ring anymore. So it's all reflective. So like I look at my last match and my first match in the same light as that. It's all part of my journey but it's all like kind of, I don't know, for lack of better, it's almost like it's all life I lived before, and it's not the life I currently live, but it's still it's a giant, huge part of what I do now is because of everything I learned.
The foundation.
For those 20 years I was in the ring. That's why I'm able to help people with matches and help come up with ideas and things like that. It's just based off kind of what I know and what I've learned and what I continue to learn. So it's just I look back very fondly on like all of my career, everything. I was good at living in the moment, not just like looking back in nostalgia, nostalgically looking at everything and liking everything in nostalgia.
Yeah.
I was going to live in the moment. Like I remember being in FCW and really enjoying my time in FCW. And I knew like whether I got called up or unfortunately, if I'd been let go, I knew that my wrestling career wasn't going to, you know, barring obviously a crazy injury, my wrestling career wasn't going to stop in FCW. So I enjoyed FCW for what it was. Either I was going to move up to the main roster or I was going to, you know, maybe go back and wrestle in Japan or whatever was going to happen was going to happen. But so I was able to sit and enjoy FCW in the moment and not, I saw a lot of people and I understand why they get like that. I saw a lot of people that would, you know, get in their own heads and wouldn't be able to enjoy the things that were happening because they were too worried. They're either too worried about what they did in the past or they're too worried about what's happening next rather than to live in the moment.
Exactly. And I think that's with a lot of things too, not just pro wrestling, but I think people in general where they kind of want to skip through the journey because, oh, I want to get to WWE or I want to get here. And they kind of just pass through that whole journey. But that's really the part that you really need to put that focus on, you need to be present with, because that's what's going to get you to that end goal. And I think people are more focused on the end goal than the actual journey, like what you're describing. So it is a really cool aspect to hear.
Big time. And you need that journey. Those journeys, that journey is going to shape you and give you these lessons that you're going to be able to take and apply to many different situations. And without them, you're going to, last thing you want to do is fall flat on your face in front of, you know, a live audience on Raw. So you don't want to get to WWE too soon. You don't want to skip that journey. That journey is a giant. That journey is the big process. It's bigger than all the end pieces.
Oh, I agree 100% on that. So growing up in the business, growing up around the Hart family, there is an ominous, I guess, mark that is attached to the family. That's the Montreal Screwjob. How was that perceived? Obviously, you being younger, I don't know if you were at the age where you understood it fully or if it was just a thing you witnessed, didn't really understand it. But how was that perceived from the family? Was it like brought up at like family gatherings? Like how did that play out really behind the scenes?
Yeah, it was definitely, it was a dark spot for sure. I understood a part of it at the time. I understood the betrayal of it. I understood I understood certain things. And as I've gotten older, and I have a pretty good relationship with Brett, so I've gotten to understand a lot of, I wouldn't say I understand everything because I don't, but I understand a lot of the details about that show and about that match and about that decision. I remember watching on pay-per-view at Harry's house with his mom, and you know the family was over, and it was funny because instantly we don't know exactly what's up. It just, you see, you know, a sharpshooter, Brett's in a sharpshooter, the bell rings, Sean's the champion, the pay-per-view ends very quickly. And you see Vince is out there, which is one of the first times that he's out there like that, not on commentary.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some strange and different elements that don't normally take place. But it did at first didn't really think anything of it so much until Davey called home and said like that was not supposed to happen at all, and that
wow.
And he talked about the fight after, and he just said that I believe Davey and Owen are supposed to run out as part of the finish, and it obviously doesn't happen. So they're live, and we've seen footage now, so you see all the chaos that's kind of going on. But at home, I think we're getting ready to kind of go over to Sunday dinner, so we didn't really know what exactly had happened in terms of the details yet.
Wow. And I can imagine, being younger as a kid, seeing all the adults kind of like frantic with what's happening that's really not supposed to happen. You as a kid, being in love with what you're watching, you're kind of, it's like you have so many questions going through, and I can only imagine how, I don't know. I don't even know the word to describe that.
Yeah.
Sure of what
crazy. Like a few months prior to that was the Canadian Stampede, which was the complete opposite. It was like complete elation. And like the city was, it was the Calgary Stampede, so the city's always alive at that time. But the city was alive, and like wrestling was like that show. I just watched it back not too long ago. Like it stands the test of time, that show. And that's only a few months prior. So it's just crazy. It's just so crazy that, again, like just how it can be such a 180 from one way to the other.
Wow. And I kind of want to make my way back to the dungeon. Do you have any favorite stories or like your fondest memory there that you can kind of share with us?
Man, I mean, just it was tough training. It was real tough. There's like video footage and like the kind of even the Ken Shamrock and Owen match from Fully Loaded from the dungeon. I think a lot of people don't like when they watch clips. I think they almost like can't fathom how hard that dungeon really was, how hard that mat was, and how little give that mat had. And you learned how to do things properly really quickly, because if you didn't do it properly, it hurt really bad down there. And I'm like 15, 16. I was 16 wrestling like full grown men, and I'm like late growth spurt, so small, getting thrown around by these big guys down there. And there's like the low hanging pipes that I saw a million people hit their heads on.
Yeah.
A couple of my favorite ones just involve like I guess, maybe the intimidation of pro wrestling, but also just the dungeon itself. But I remember this happened like twice in the same year. It was like a guy from Ireland came, and he flew all the way in. He paid his tuition, and he got on the mat. We had practices on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, a Wednesday evening. And so he gets on the mat after watching practice, and he kind of introduces himself and just says, like this is his dream, whatever. The next morning, he's on the first flight home, and I never see him ever again. He paid his full tuition. This guy, he stood on the mat just to introduce himself. He didn't do one thing physical on the mat, but I think he just, maybe didn't know what he was signing up for. And I think when he got there, he was like, oh, they actually hit each other this hard. And like, I think he just, I don't know, he saw this and was like, oh my God, this is actually way harder than I thought, than it looked on TV.
Yeah.
And another guy, like one guy from Ireland and one guy from Scotland, like almost the exact same thing, like almost like verbatim. He just like same thing, introduced himself, blah, blah, blah. And first thing in the morning, he's gone. He went home. Another guy, two different guys in the same year. Wow. Stu would come down and stretch guys sometimes. That would lead to some funny stuff. Like I remember one guy hiding behind the door as like Stu walked in, and then he like zipped past and got in his car, almost like something out of the Simpsons. You hear his car starting and take off.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of the, and the ones that, so like for me, when I'm seeing these guys come to the mat and then introduce themselves and leave, and they're young men, like 19, 20, 21. But I was like 16 and I was real small too. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm still here. Yeah. These guys didn't even take one fall on this mat yet. Come roll around on this thing first. And it was kind of funny. We were doing amateur wrestling with these young amateur wrestling coaches. And so at one point, Diana invited them to come learn pro wrestling. So we would train with them like early Saturday mornings at this amateur wrestling facility. And then we would go up to the dungeon and then join, Bruce and Ross Hart were running wrestling practice. So I'm in there with these amateur wrestling coaches. I'm kind of teaching them some pro wrestling stuff. I'm super green at the time, but I've been wrestling a little bit.
Yeah.
They're teaching me amateur wrestling, but they're not like pro wrestlers yet. So everything they do is like full speed, hurts. They're throwing me hard as hell, but it's good, man. I wouldn't change 1 second of it. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't change 1 second of that, because it definitely helped me so much in my career and in my life.
It's funny, when I was back in high school, I went to tryouts for the amateur team for my school, and I think I was in like 10th or 11th grade, so I was kind of like halfway through high school at that point. And I was like, you know what, I really love the wrestling team. I did it when I was younger. Let me just go for the school team. First day of tryouts, bunch of kids there, all different sizes. And at the time, I'm 125, 130 pound kid. So I'm like small, lanky. And it's like, it was just, I don't know. I didn't know how well I was going to do.
Yeah.
And then the second day of tryouts, it was not even half the people showed up. And I just remember the coach like looking at us, like smirking. He's like, "Is it something I said?" Like, because we all knew that like nobody realizes how hard it is, and also the side of it. And for me, like I didn't even have in my mind that I wasn't coming the second day. And I'm looking around, I'm like, where the hell do all these people go? So I completely understand.
You're right though. That mentality, like the same thing. I never once questioned like, oh, maybe this wrestling thing's not for me. It's a little bit tough. I should stop. That never entered my head. It was like, okay, this is tough. What's the best way?
The love and the passion for it.
How do I go about making this easy? If it's so hard, if this one move is so hard, how do I go about making it easy so I can do it, accomplish it, and feel that sense of accomplishment and move on to the next one? And then exactly, and at that point, that love had totally engulfed me. Like there was no, it never crossed my mind for a second ever of like quitting wrestling.
Got it. Now I know the questions you're always asked with your injury. We know kind of what happened there, but what was your initial reaction when it first happened? Like, what was the first thought that went through your head?
So when we first landed, I'm okay for a second, and I see a giant white light, but like way thicker than anyone I've seen before. I thought, maybe it's like I've been concussed or something, but I've later found out, I think the medical term is spinal cord concussion. I saw the thickest, whitest light I've ever seen. And then I was paralyzed. I was paralyzed for, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 seconds.
Wow.
Which is not a very long time, but when you can't move anything, it's a very long time. And my body felt like it weighed like 2 million pounds. Like it just, like, I couldn't move anything.
Wow.
Then I started getting my feeling back, and then my body felt like my limbs and stuff felt like weak, but I had feeling and I had strength. It just felt like weaker, and then my neck obviously felt like my neck just felt like I don't know, there's so much pain like radiating the back of my neck. I always say it felt like a baseball. Like felt like the scene from Aliens where the alien comes out of the stomach, but like trying to come out of the back of my neck.
Wow.
And then go to the hospital, and they did a CAT scan and stuff there. Then this other group of people come, like another medical people, like a ambulance of people come and get me, almost like a SWAT team style. And they like cut my sweater off. They're like, we need to take this shirt off. I said, I can take it off. Like, I have a brace on. I have a collar. They're like, no, you can't move your head. And they like cut my shirt. They lay me down on this gurney, and they take me in an ambulance to like another hospital that specializes in like spinal injuries and surgeries. And then so I spend that night. I'm so sorry. 1 second.
You're good.
I spend that night kind of in the basement of this hospital room, just kind of waiting for it. I did an MRI when I got there. And then I'm just sitting there kind of waiting on the results. But also at this point, it's like, I don't know, man. I just remember finally falling asleep around like 5 a.m. a little bit, getting a little bit of sleep. And then the doctor kind of came in at about I remember Cesaro got there first with some Chipotle and Starbucks, the good combo.
Oh,
and then,
of course.
And then the doctor came in probably around 9 or 10 in the morning. Just said they want to do emergency surgery, and just that the MRI they did concurred with the first assessment. They just thought the injury was too freaky to have, so they want to do their own MRI, which makes perfect sense that they want to do their own MRI. I just sat in the basement. I'm not sat. I had a bed, but in this like basement room. Wow. I ended up being in that hospital for a few days in San Antonio. They moved me like up to like a regular room with like TV and stuff. Very different than my first night there in the basement.
Wow. And I can only imagine the reaction, especially from Natty seeing that. Was she at the arena when that happened, or?
Yeah, she's ringside. She's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was her initial reaction to not necessarily know what was going on, but she knew something was obviously wrong? What was that like? That
yeah, she when she saw like that I couldn't move, she just, you know, kind of freaked out and got upset, and she ran to the back like looking for help. Wow. So she ran off. So then I don't see like then I'm in the ring. It's me and Cesaro in the ring. We have like a bunch of interaction out of that. But I don't see Natty for a few minutes because she's backstage running to find someone. Then I'm like going back to the locker room, and so I end up seeing her like a little bit after. Like I got changed out of my gear, and then I go to as I like walk by in San Antonio, the way the locker room is, the male talent and the trainer's room. As I'm coming around the corner from where the trainer's room is, like that's where I finally see Natty for the first time. But the two rooms technically are connected by a door. But if you go outside, it's around the corner. But you can actually just walk through the store.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine that whole situation just being just scary. I mean, for you, but for everyone that's there watching who knows you, seeing this wrong, I can only imagine that whole. I don't know.
That's the thing. There's like, and you know, and also at the same time, like live Raw is about to go on. Like this happened right before Raw, so like on a regular Raw, everybody's running around anyway. Then you add on this injury, and like it just our live TV is like chaos as it is anyway. It's live TV that we're dealing with, running around backstage, all this stuff all the time. And you throw an injury, and it was wild. I don't know what everyone else's perspective was like, but for me, it was just wild. It was wild.
I can only imagine. That's a lot. I'm glad that you're good now, though, and you're healthy.
Yes, I'm very, very lucky, very fortunate, and I'll take it. It's something that I'm not glad I experienced, but I do have this experience now, so I can, you know, if I can use this to help others or to help others prevent any type of injury like this, and then I will gladly try my best.
Of course. And you were an instrumental part in NXT. I think you were the first main roster guy to go down or go to NXT to either help or just, you know, advance your career. I'm not sure what that whole the whole situation was to go there, but you put on some really great matches there. I remember watching you on the main roster, and then you going over to NXT, and me just being more invested in Tyson Kidd there, just watching NXT every week, waiting to see what you're going to do, either with Breeze or, you know, with Balor. And now being in a producer role, do you ever see yourself going to NXT to go produce there, or?
Yes, that's a great question. NXT was so much fun, man. And I'm trying to think. So that very, very first show at Full Sail, I wrestled Curtis Axel. So yeah, NXT. I wrestled Curtis Axel or Michael McGillicuddy on that first show at Full Sail in the main event of the first show there. So I kind of like kicked that first one off a little bit. Then I'm there a little bit, in and out, and then I hurt my knee, and then I'm not there, obviously. Anyway, I just remember being like, I just thought it'd be, I don't remember whose idea it was. I just remember I texted one of the writers and was like, hey, I'm going to come by NXT tomorrow. If you guys want to use me, cool. If not, that's fine too. But I like the energy there. I'm going to come by. Came by, and I ended up wrestling Mason Ryan. And remember they said they wanted me to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit almost heelish. And wrestle Mason, and then the next taping, I wrestled Mason. Then the very next taping, we set up is when I wrestled Bo Rotundo. I wrestled Bo Dallas. I wrestled Battle Royal, where we do myself, Sami Zayn, and Breeze as like the final three.
Yeah,
we do like a triple elimination. Then we do a three-way. And then I do a promo with Neville, and I was on those 4 episodes. I was on all 4 episodes that we filmed that day. And then I remember leaving thinking like, well, we've already filmed it. Now it's set. Now it is me versus Neville at TakeOver. Hopefully they don't find some magical way to change this. But it was cool, man. It was so much fun. That stuff there. It felt like we were kind of not starting a new style, but a little bit. And we were like educating like a new audience to those NXT fans. And it was really cool to see like the rise of the women at that time too. Like it was cool. Everything got to happen in these little stages. Like you had Neville as a champion, and then you had like Sammy, who's that crowd loved Sammy.
Yeah.
Then myself and Breeze. You have the four of us kind of doing the stuff like for that work for the NXT title, and then at that same time, like Natty and Charlotte had that first match at that first takeover was awesome. And you started to see the rise of the four of us kind of with the title, but then also like, and I've already been on the main roster, so it was real cool for those other three guys. Obviously, it was very cool for me, but it's cool to see like new guys, and then the women, and then the tag teams kind of came after that. It was kind of funny how things kept rising in NXT and made this very cool element and very cool atmosphere, I think, for the talent and for the fans.
Of course. And now today, NXT being a third brand of WWE live every week. I mean, incredible to see that rise.
Huge. What a giant shift from being like I was on the season where it was like the one where like it never ends, the game show version, but it never ends. And it just went on forever. And then it became like soap opera-ish, which was kind of cool. Kind of like at least try out that type of thing. And it's just funny to watch what it's become and what it was.
Wow. And towards the end of your career, you were in a tag team with Cesaro. Probably one of my favorite tag teams of all time, just because I don't know, it was like two underrated guys who came together and just put on banger matches every time they were in the ring, and it didn't last long. Had a title run, which was good. But how did that come about? I mean, the tag team, they tell you we're putting you with Cesaro?
We were in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there was a tag team gauntlet match. And on the graphic, it showed me and Cesaro as a team. so there we were.
Yeah.
In all our glory.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was I remember at that time we were doing stuff on we were doing promos and stuff on the app, WWE app. And they want us to do a promo beforehand, before that tag gauntlet. I remember them, and when I say them, the producer of like that app. It wasn't like it was, but that person was, and they weren't wrong. That was just their suggestion. Their suggestion was like that me and Sarah are bickering and arguing, and like I just put my headphones on and ignore them and walk off.
Yeah.
And Cesaro, and I was like, okay, I'll do it, whatever. And Cesaro was like, no, I think it's better if we get along, and he puts on the headphones to like ignore Natty, which I was doing like that type of stuff at the time. And I was like, yeah, his idea is way better. And so we went with Cesaro's idea. He said, man, who knows? What if this becomes a team? Why would we want to show bickering on that very first day? He was so right. He was 1,000,000% right. I was just cool with just going with the flow at that time. And he made the right call though. And I don't know, man. It's so weird. I don't know why there was this chemistry that there was. I mean, I'm very grateful for it. I'm very happy about it. It just was very funny. It's like you said, we teamed up literally for, it's so crazy, like exactly 6 months. That Tulsa Raw is December 1st. I get hurt on June 1st. It's literally 6 months to the day. 6 months to the day. December 1st and June 1st are both Mondays. Like it's literally to the day that we're a tag team. It's so crazy.
And I think like what you're saying about the chemistry, you guys like meshed together so well. It doesn't feel like it was 6 months. It feels like it was like a longer run. And
like even I had this talk with like Sheamus not too long ago in the locker room. He said, no, you guys teamed up for at least like a year and a half. I said, dude, 6 months.
Wow.
He says, why do I remember it as being so long? I was like, well, hopefully you mean that in a good way. But yeah, I think, and so when you look at it like that, like 6 months, like you can do some stuff in 6 months, but for some reason, some way, we had like that chemistry in like week 2, like week 1, like So by month 4, it was definitely there. It was so much fun. It was such a fun time in my career. It was so much fun. That European tour that year after WrestleMania was like the most ridiculous amount of fun like I've had in wrestling in performing. It was so fun. The crowd, the audience, we were supposed to be the bad guys and they're supposed to be the good guys, but every night in Europe wasn't having it. And so we just totally changed on the fly. And it was so much fun. It was
wow.
I couldn't have asked for better opponents than New Day in that role, and a better partner in Cesaro in terms of just us gelling. And I say this when I'm asked about that. I think if you go back and watch the triple threat with Dolph and Cesaro that we had in Liverpool, a couple weeks before Cesaro and I team up, so you'll see certain things of our chemistry in that match, almost like accidental, not as a team, but working as a team, and moments in a triple threat match. And when I watch that match back, I go, oh, that's funny. I wonder if somebody saw that and this planted that seed, or was it just, now I've been in these meetings, was it just our 2 names were just randomly brought up? I don't know. I'm grateful for it. And I love that opportunity. And it would have been, that's obviously like a giant, I'd say regret, but it's not out of my control. But
yeah,
I would like to have seen, where it would have gone, but even how much better. We were just scratching the surface. That was just 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. Yeah,
we were scratching the surface. That was what you saw of myself and Cesaro was not the peak.
Wow.
And I think that's cool. I'm glad on one hand, I'm a little bit grateful that it happened the way it happened, in terms of like it stopped kind of like, I guess, at the top of us as a team,
like really high,
and that you don't see us fizzle out or have maybe a bad split that maybe doesn't turn out well, even though like matches with him would turn out well. So I don't know, but I'm okay with it the way it went down.
Awesome. And speaking of Cesaro, I know a big topic when people mention him is that he's one of the most underrated wrestlers in the history of the company. Do you think at some point there will be a world title run for him? Because it's the topic that fans have always asked for, creating the Cesaro section and just asking for it. Do you think that it's?
I can't see why not. I can't see why not. I've got to be the biggest Cesaro fan there is out there. One of them. I say this. I said this before as a talent, and I say it a lot as a producer. But it's different, I guess, if you're on SmackDown. But next Monday could be your Monday. You could show up next Monday, and next Monday might be the beginning of what turns into you being the guy. But if you didn't show up if you decided, nah, I've had enough, you didn't show up to work that Monday, then that opportunity doesn't happen. Like like for example, I was trying to wrestle Trent Beretta on a Superstars match on a Tuesday for SmackDown. I saw a graphic. I was wrestling JTG or somebody, and I asked Jimmy Noble if it'd be possible to get it switched to me against Trent. And he texted me that next morning and said, "Hey, I think it's you versus Trent now." And I said, "Thank you." Then he texted me 20 minutes later and said, "Hey, thank you." He's like, "Actually, things just totally changed. So now you're wrestling Jack Swagger, and you're going to qualify for Money in the Bank." So like, I went from wrestling maybe JTG to then trying to get it to be Trent Beretta on Superstars, to then wrestling Swagger on SmackDown and qualifying for Money in the Bank. So that was my Tuesday. I didn't know it was going to be my Tuesday. Like you never know. The Raw, it's a different thing, but teaming with Cesaro that time, I showed up at that Raw. Had no clue that that's what we were doing until I saw a graphic that showed me in a graphic, me and Cesaro, and we made a thing out of it. But like when I showed up that Monday, no one said, "Hey, listen, it's you and Cesaro, and then you guys winning the titles at Fastlane." That's not how it's laid out. A lot of times there might be a little bit of a plan penciled in, but then things take shape and their own plans go out the window, new plans get made.
Yeah.
So when that happened to be one of those Mondays where I show up and then it's me and Cesaro, it worked out great. So my point just being, man, this guy is so talented. He can speak 5 languages. There's like so many things to him that if you were to tell me in a year from now Cesaro's world champion, I'd say, yeah, no kidding. That doesn't shock me. So that, to me, the answer is yes, he easily can be and should be. Yeah. And the truth is, though, sometimes I know we want things right away, but sometimes that wait is better. Like Kofi Mania is not Kofi Mania if Kofi wins that title in the first 2 years of being on the main roster.
10, 11 years later, I mean.
And then look what it turned into. It turned into this amazing, like, beautiful thing.
Yeah. It doesn't even affect him. It's like it affects Xavier. It affects Biggie.
Yeah. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
If Kofi had won a world title, 5 or 6 years prior to that, there's no Big E, there's no New Day. I mean, that might still come, but then when we get to that WrestleMania and Kofi Mania, it's not the same.
Yep, I agree. And there was an Instagram story put out. I don't know if it was from Natty or someone else. It was you running the ropes, and honestly, the wrestling world, like, they stormed the dirt sheets. They looked everywhere. Is he returning? Is he training for a return? What was that? Was it just you training? And what was your reaction to seeing the fans' reaction, hoping for some sort of Tyson Kidd return?
The fans are awesome. I get that question every day, literally every day. If I'm coming back, I've answered it a bunch, but it's fine. I appreciate, even though I've answered it, people not wanting to take my answer and still want me to come back. I mean, at least there's a handful, so I'll take that. So I got a ring, I got a warehouse, and I got a ring set up, and I knew when Natty posted it, obviously it'd become a thing. But I just wanted to hit the ropes and try a springboard again. It's been a long time. But like I said, I'm appreciative that the fans they don't take my answer as the answer. So
got it.
No matter what post I put up, like if I put up a picture now, I'd be like, oh my God, you're in great shape. You must be coming back soon. It's like, well, working out in my gym in my garage and wrestling in a ring and taking superplexes are two very different things.
Yeah, it could just be for what you want, it's not just for a return. I don't know.
Yeah, and I love working out, and I love it definitely promotes health and stuff, and I just love it. So it's just the truth is, this is what I've always done. It's just now like I didn't have Instagram, so now you're seeing it almost in a microcosm of just like, oh, here's this one picture, but like, I mean, whatever, it is what it is. But I get that question literally every day, and it doesn't bother me because I know that it's coming from a cool place. So it's not like it's not an antagonizing way. It's coming from a cool place, and to be missed by anybody is awesome. That's all. Like when you stop doing this, it's all you can ask for is that at least somebody misses you.
Of course. And speaking of working out and speaking of the phenomenal shape you're in, I see the shirt you're wearing. I follow the Instagram, Workhouse Fitness. What can you tell us about that and the products that you guys sell?
Yeah, man. So I'm very proud of it, of Workhorse Fitness. Right now we're working on a new pre-workout with a little bit more like stimulants in it. The other one's a great pre-workout. It's good, like clean energy. You don't feel like jittery. You don't kind of feel that itchiness. But there are those people, and depending on the day, myself included, that like that almost like that edgy energy. So I have a new pre-workout coming out as well. So that way you have, more options. One for the person who maybe doesn't want to be tingly, and one for the person who enjoys that tingle on occasion. BCAAs, protein, a lot of cool clothes, shirts, and sleeveless hoodies and stuff. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun, and it's definitely something that's like I'm able to put some energy to on the side, and especially,
of course,
during this time, I have. Well, it's funny. Prior to this, all the producers were split. We were on one brand or the other.
Yeah.
And then now I'm doing both shows again. I mean, I've been doing both shows since about March, but for sure since April. But now, like when we moved to Amway in Orlando, it was like live every Monday, live Friday, and then same schedule we have now. So like this past week, I did like Thursday I had to go get COVID tested. Friday we had SmackDown. Sunday we had TLC. Monday Raw, and then Tuesday SmackDown. That'll air on tomorrow for Christmas. We filmed on Tuesday, so SmackDown. So that way SmackDown people have Christmas off. But I've been busy the last few days. But in a normal schedule, the workhorse has been awesome to kind of like put my energy into on off days and come up with a design or come up with like, okay, what new flavor? We're always looking into new flavors and new product, and so it's cool. It's a cool process, and it's just something that I really believe in, and I love working out, and I love promoting healthiness. So
yeah,
it's like I said, it's been a lot of fun for me, and a cool learning, like just certain things like I did wrong at first, which is fine. I tried having this ingredient called to help with a pump. I tried having that in there, but too much of it, and it can't have any moisture, and it like clumps it all up. And so I've had a lot of growing pains and learning, but it's been cool. It's been a lot of fun.
You can see the passion from it with your Instagram post, the shape that you're in. I mean, you can definitely see that there's passion, there's love behind it, and it's being involved with pro wrestling, but you can definitely see that this is legit and it's real. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I know that there are a few Heart members that are free agents right now, I guess. And I met Harry in February this year. I met him at a show in New York, and just a really like cool, down to earth guy. I talked for a little bit. Do you think sometime in the near future, now that he's a free agent, do you think that there's a chance he'll end up back in the WWE?
I mean, it's entirely possible. I think it's what does Harry want to do for Harry, and what does Harry think is his best option in this environment at this time, now that he's a free agent. I've been trying to
of course,
I've never left here, so I've been trying to get him to come back for a very long time. He's been gone now for 9 years. He left WWE in 2011. I've been here for those, I mean, Natty too, but we've been there for these full 9 years trying to convince this guy to come back. I've explained to him that the company's changed a lot in the time that he's been gone, and I've explained to certain people in the company that Harry has also changed a lot in the time that he's been gone. So I think it's just a matter of the two sides coming together eventually, if that's what he wants to do. I know Harry loves Japan. He loves performing in Japan. He loves being in Japan. If that's what he wants to keep on doing, obviously, then, and that's what makes him happy, that's great. But I guess selfishly, I would like for him to come back here.
No, of course. And I think the wrestling fans would also like to see it happen because, like you said, the business has changed over the time that he's been gone. And I think now, especially having different brands and different types of characters that weren't there when he was last there, I think with his lineage that could really work. And even in NXT UK or
I was just about to say,
NXT,
like NXT,
I mean, there's history there and there's something to build off of. And I think that would be a really, I don't know.
He could easily do like so well and so awesome in NXT UK and NXT, like in both of those, just to kind of get his feet wet in terms of coming back. He has been gone for 9 years, a long time.
Yeah. And you see a lot of
both of those could be a good barometer for him to assess, like, oh, okay, like something like this definitely didn't exist in WWE when I was here last.
Of course. And you can see now, you have Cody progressing, his family's lineage. You still have Orton in WWE, and there's so many other Charlotte Flair, so many people who have, even Natty, have the lineage of their family that I think to the fans now, because they're more invested with social media and they know more things that they did before. I think it's more of like a personal thing with the fans where they actually want to see, that real stuff, the real family stuff, and just more. I don't know. It's kind of hard.
I think you're right. I think you're totally right.
Yeah. Now I know you didn't have the opportunity to have a last match on your of your choosing, and I can imagine how that list would play out in your head. Who would be, your final match if you were able to choose that? Do you have anybody in
Yeah.
mind that you would want to be? All right, if I'm going to go out, this is the match I want to have.
I'm trying to think. To be honest, I never really thought of like this one match. I did think about being in a Royal Rumble and being able to kind of control things in that environment, and where I would be very, very low risk. But it didn't come to fruition. It was, there's still a risk there, and so it didn't happen. And that was in my mind just a way to write the last page on my wrestling chapter of my life.
Yeah.
And my in-ring career. But in terms of like a match, like an actual match, I don't know. Like there's so many that would, I guess, be intriguing. Like, would it be like me versus Cesaro? Would it be me versus Harry? Would it be me, Harry, and Cesaro versus the New Day in a 6-man tag? Would it be right as I got hurt, I saw Jason Jordan and Chad Gable.
Wow.
Started like
two great talents
hitting their strides, man. And I just thought, what great matches we could have had with those two, because they had the same dynamic, the taller guy and the shorter guy. And just like that dynamic is so fun to play with. And when both teams have it, it's so much easier. And yeah, man, I think both guys are so talented, Jordan and Gable. I think Gable's so good. So I don't know, in terms of like a last actual like match, I don't know. Like it could be a bunch of things. Me against Joe.
The fact that
a lot of things are intriguing. I don't know what's the right answer.
And the fact that there's, you can't really pick one. There's a lot of people that you can choose from. Shows that the business is going in the right direction. Especially WWE. There's so many great talent there that it is hard to pick one last match. But I do like to end my interviews with the same question, and that's when your time is done with professional wrestling in overall. What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be?
And that's a great question. At some stage throughout my career, I realized that for me, the thing I was looking for the most was the respect of my peers. And so I aimed for that early on. And luckily, I've seen people who maybe don't realize how important that is.
Yeah.
Up front, and maybe worry about other things up front. And then maybe when they come back to kind of cross those T's and dot those I's, it might be too late.
Yeah.
I just want to, I just like, if you think about me, or like, especially people who've worked with me, if you think about working with me in either aspect, whether as a producer or as a talent, I'd just like you to smile. That's all. I just want you to think that like you enjoyed working with me, like I said, whether in the ring or as a producer, and that you didn't dread a day of working with TJ or working with Tyson if that's who you were assigned to on that day. I think I've done a great job of doing that. And yeah, man, it's funny. I've been a producer for like 3.5 years now. And there's something that I really love about it that is not the same as my actual wrestling myself. But there's in some ways it's way better, and in some ways it's not quite up to par. But it all balances out where, like, I don't know, I might be able to make a bigger run and a bigger impact as a producer than I did as a talent, possibly.
Yeah, and you kind of see that played out with, you know, someone who we recently lost, Pat Patterson, went from in-ring career, went backstage.
Yeah.
Now his legacy lives on forever from everybody's work, you know, the work that he was a part of. So, you know, that
we all learned so much from Pat, all of us in WWE and tons of people outside of WWE, even if you didn't know it was Pat, but you saw something in a match and you liked it.
Exactly.
And then you used it. Well, guess what? It was a pretty good chance it came from Pat. And so he influenced you, even if you've never met him. Like, he influenced so many people in his mind for wrestling. I think outside of the Attitude Era, I don't know that I ever really. I've seen the Pat Patterson Sergeant Slaughter like MSG match, but otherwise I haven't really seen too many Pat Patterson matches.
Yeah.
But when we think of him, we think of like what a great mind he was for wrestling. Like that, like that's what like becomes his legacy. He's not even like as great as he was at his own career, but how many other careers he influenced becomes bigger than even his own.
Yeah. No, exactly. And
like he's the guy that's super behind Bret Hart, world champion in '92, and he's the guy that's super behind Shawn Michaels, world champion in '96. That's Pat Patterson.
Wow. No, he definitely had, you know, a great touch, a great mind for pro wrestling, probably one of the best ever. And, you know, you hear all the talent that from years ago or currently.
I know.
You know, everyone was influenced by Pat. So I understand when you're saying you want your legacy to live on through, you know, who you help and things like that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I have a better chance doing that behind the scenes than I did as a talent. That's not only how I feel, but that's just the way it is. I know because I just had matches on Friday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and people generally came back with like big smiles on their faces, and everything went very well. And it was more people than if I had my own singles matches those 4 days. So
exactly, that's awesome. I think that's probably the coolest aspect of, you know, being backstage, not being in front of the camera in the ring, but, you know, being backstage doing what you do. That's probably the coolest thing, I think.
Yeah.
So
it's very cool. It's like in creating something and then seeing it like creatively, collectively creating something, and then the talent executing it in the ring. When they execute it even better than the way I had it in my mind, like that's the best. And you see like how excited they are when you tell them an idea, or when they don't think they can do something, but then they do it. Oh, it's the best feeling. It's really so.
Also, I think also too, it's because they know you're one of them. You were a performer in the ring before the producer role, where, you know, there are some producers where they're producer, they're not necessarily having, you know, a history in the ring. So to hear one of their own, something that you know will work or can work, it's definitely like more of like a motivating type thing to hear that.
For sure. Yeah. No, definitely. You're right.
Awesome. Now, for the fans listening who want to follow you more, want to follow Workhorse, where can they find you on social media or website, and stay up with Tyson Kidd, especially with the top-notch shape you're in, man? I saw on Instagram. Yeah. Where can they follow you to see all that?
So my Instagram is TJ Wilson 711. I added the 711 because that's my birthday, but I couldn't just get TJ Wilson. I could have put WWE or something else, but in the haste of making it, I thought a number was better, so I put 711. I didn't even think that would work, and I clicked it and it went through. I'm like, okay. Then I have Workhorse Fitness. Instagram is at Workhorse Fitness, and the website is at Workhorse Fitness, and the website is www.workhorsefitnessproducts.com. Awesome. I'm on Twitter at TJ Wilson. That one I didn't have to add the 711. I could just use that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just social media can be on there for a little too long, but a lot of times I'm not posting stuff. I just like, it's funny. I think a lot of us use Twitter almost as our news. I'll just like scroll through and kind of see what and then move on.
Yeah. And then sometimes I get caught up in it. So
man, you can go down that hole.
Oh yeah, you see one for a while, scrolling for like 2 hours. Awesome. I do want to thank you for taking the time to talk and open up and talk about all this stuff we talked about, especially during the holidays. I know it's crazy.
My pleasure.
Again, I want to thank you for coming on. Wish you and your family the best, and can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2021.
Oh, I know. I think everyone's ready for 2021.
Awesome, man. Have a healthy Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, too. Happy holidays.
Thanks, man, and we will stay in touch.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Let's go, let's go!